Hello, I'm Andrew, and on today's IRL news, the Yogscast launched their own Humble Bundle curated store page, and Intel pull adverts from Gamasutra followed by pressure from Gamergate. Okay, so the Yogscast actually launched their own sort of curated store page whereby basically Humble Bundle give them a share of the Humble Bundle profits in exchange for them basically getting sales through the Yogscast store page, and of course the Yogscast are going to push that angle. I think their own website has a URL that goes to games.yogscast.com, something like that. It's interesting. I don't think there's anything more to say about it that's interesting. You saw the Yogscast earlier this year were doing the Yog Discovery thing, whereby they would take a share of the profits for any game they covered from any source, which was it was a bit crap. Let's just say it was a poor system, because it meant that anyone who covered the game was giving money to the Yogscast in effect, and it also puts a bias on them to sell copies of the game, which I guess is not terrible for someone who just does purely funny Let's Play videos, but it's still a little bit odd. Matt Lees did say that it makes him a bit more like a PR company, and he's not wrong in that that's kind of how it works. It's just a bit odd. Now, the Humble Bundle storefront can be seen as an extension of that. It comes out at the time when Steam have literally just started their own curation system. Of course, the Steam curation system does not give anyone a share of profits, which they were actually talking about a couple of years ago when Steam were discussing the curation system. But of course, that is not the case with the current system. And it looks like Yogscast have kind of gone for that, but through Humble Bundle. Really up to you about what you make of this one. I personally use the Humble Bundle because it gives more percentage to the devs. I think it gives 75% to the devs, whereas to Steam, we don't know exactly with Steam. All the actual percentages are held in the contracts that we don't see, but we know at least in one case it was 70% to devs. 70-30 is the traditional split for digital medium, so it's likely that a lot of them are 70-30. So Humble Bundle wing 75-25 does give more to the devs, which is nice, and of course they do donate a lot of their proceeds to charity, so that in addition is another nice thing. So it really depends what you make of this one. Gonna leave this one with you. And lastly, yeah, Intel, so you know the guys who make CPUs that most of you have, and I have, pulled their adverts from Gamasutra, which is of course a gaming online magazine thing, following pressure which appears to come from the Gamergate community, crowd, people, thing. Okay, let's start with this one. The reason that they pulled the adverts was because a load of people complained about a particular article. The article was one of these articles that appeared all over the place about like 3 weeks, a month ago, saying gamers are dead, gamers are not your demographic, gamers are so over, because I really hated these articles, right? They were basically implicitly or explicitly condemning all gamers because of the actions of a few Gamergaters being like harassing and doxing and whatever. And that was a bit like, yeah, why are you kind of implicitly or explicitly, in either case, decrying gamers? I mean, there are millions of gamers on the planet, probably billions, I don't know what the current numbers are. And we definitely aren't getting a billion people, and if there's a billion people doing something, I honestly say that Twitter would probably fall over. I don't think that one would work. So, however, as much as I may disagree with an article, I still think the article has a right to be somewhere. I mean, it just means that I don't take that publication as highly, or I don't like that writer as highly, or I just don't read it. I think people have a right to talk about things that I dislike, because sometimes it might make good points and make me change my opinion. I like people giving me alternate opinions. Really, I do. That's kind of why when I ask for criticism or feedback in the comments, I just say you do it politely. Like, there isn't a problem with giving alternate opinions. What you get if you don't get alternate opinions is you get like a circle jerk. You just get a closed community, you get an echo chamber. And what do these echo chambers end up with? If everyone is giving the same opinion and just affirming you, then all the time your opinion is just going to get more and more entrenched and more extreme. That's kind of how extremism works. That's kind of how terrorists happen. Let's be honest, that is actually how terrorists happen, because they get involved in a radical sect and they get told that all the other sects are wrong and that their radical sect is right, and then they go off somewhere and They just get radicalized by being with other people who just affirm that belief system, or that hate system, or however it's working. It's a shitty practice to try and get people to pull adverts from publications that you don't like the opinion of, because this is something we've been decrying. The Gamergate movement has been about a lot of things, one of whom they were complaining about, you know, censorship. Well, this is censorship and they're doing it. Secondly, they were complaining about corruption in video games, and one of these that I like to bring up is, you know, Jeff Gerstmann. He was fired from a publication because he made a review that meant that the company who was currently doing the adverts, Kane & Lynch, it was Eidos I believe, said, oh, they've given us a crappy review, well let's pull the adverts, unless they fire someone. That's something that they're decrying, and something I would definitely decry. That is a horrible practice. But then they're trying to get Intel to pull adverts? This is exactly the same censorship that they were complaining about. And this is why I don't hold much truck with this whole Gamergate nonsense, because some of the things are okay as things to, like, you know, talk about or whatever and debate, but a lot of it just comes down to meandering backwards and forwards between saying one thing and then doing the same tactics that you're complaining about. And it just blows my mind. So this is Intel pulling adverts because of an opinion, an editorial piece, which, yes, I disagree with, but I fully have the right to say that, like, they have the right to put that there, and I think that that's fine. They can have that there. I do not mind them having that article. It just means that I don't like it. I think it's a bad article, but fine. I don't think that in any way that Intel should pull adverts and try and undermine Gamasutra over it. That's insane. Anyway, I've been Entralism. This has been RRL News. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Please remember to like and subscribe if you aren't subscribed and if you want to like, you know, the general stuff. Stay shiny.